It is the Byron Show over here at Betsperts for the US Open over at Pinehurst this week in North Carolina. We're going to have an awesome week. And before we get into the show, today's show is sponsored by FanDuel Faceoff. Score daily cash wins with FanDuel Faceoff. Looking for a fun way to win cash daily? Join the FanDuel Faceoff. Play exclusive games like Jordan Spieth's Fairway Frenzy and NBA Swish Showdown. Enjoy no in-app purchases and pure skill-based games. Win up to $250K and collect new user rewards. Start playing for as low as 60 cents and win big. Download FanDuel Faceoff now and start your winning streak today. Link download in the show notes below. Ron Class, PJ Splits 101. What's cracking?
Let me tell you something. I cannot wait to see Pinehurst in action. So I don't know about you, but I was not following golf that closely a decade ago for the 2014 US Open, and so just to read about this course, hopefully to play it one day and, kind of see the relationship between approach play and around the green play, I think is going to be fascinating to see the imagination around the greens, to see if some of the kind of the big hitters can take advantage of their distance off the tee and can gain strokes, with their lofted clubs, high apex height, I think comes into play this week, to see which players are going to eject from being too aggressive. And just to see who is willing to play boring golf and simply survive for par, survive for bogey, and just move on to the next hole. And, of course, to see if Scotty can win another major when the entire world pretty much expects him to. So can't wait.
Yes, that's the crazy thing, Ron, is we're expecting him to do this thing. And we're all acting like, I'm seeing straight forecasts with Scotty as number one and everyone outrights at number two. I'm seeing... What's the most interesting thing you've seen with how to handle Scotty Scheffler this week, Ron? Before we kind of really get into it, from a betting perspective, I know this is DFS, but have you seen anything interesting from a Scotty betting perspective outside of just a straight outright?
Yeah, you got people trying, to parlay. I know, our guy Ryan Noonan, always tries to, pair him up, even with other sports. Celtics are going to win the NBA championship, and so just looking for anything you can to try to, boost those odds a little bit because. I'll be honest, I took him at 4-1. I've never bet on a player at that number before. So going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And I've just gotten to the point where, you chase all these outrights and, you can have a card with 7-8 players. You can probably have a card with more than that this week with all the value there is. But yeah, I just got to the point where, throw your hands in the air and, hey, let's see what happens.
Yep. I'm the guy with the 7 people on his card, but I also took a peek and I almost just personally just bet Scotty as like a mini hedge with taking like a 3-shot win, because more than half of his wins have been by 3 shots, which is kind of interesting. So we'll have to see what happens. But Ron, it's so cool to have a course that's actually like exciting and not like this square, hit it far, hack it out, make a few putts, like this week is going to be so much fun to watch these guys handle this golf course. I'm so excited. I don't know when last I've been this excited for a non-Augusta major.
Yeah, it's different, right? Like there's no lush green grass really. There's no 5 inches of penal rough. The fairways are not narrow. And we kind of saw that last year with LA Country Club where it was a different type of course and somewhat maybe similar in a few ways. It's really hard to find a good comparison to Pinehurst. But then, last year, when you had Wyndham on that last hole, just, off the tee, you could miss and you really would not be penalized for it. Yeah. Here, we've seen the videos, you got the wiregrass, you got these, all this vegetation and, it all depends on, where a player's ball is going to lie. And, there's going to be some good luck. There's going to be some bad luck. And, that's the exciting part is to see how do players respond. The imagination, the creativity around the greens. Is the guy going to putt off the green? Is he going to use a 4-wood? Just to see, and I think we both agree there are definitely certain players who kind of fit that creative mindset that, be interesting to see what their ownership ends up at. And then you got guys like, Bryson who, has kind of, we'll get into him, but kind of turned into this well-rounded golfer. But can he do it around the green this week? I think is going to be like a question.
Yeah, I think Bryson's showing up to this golf course with like a pencil and a protractor when I think you need a pencil and some paintbrushes. I think that's kind of what we're looking for here from the guys. But you never know. Like he could potentially figure some stuff out. I've really been enjoying all the clips with Johnson Wagner speaking to Cam Smith and Harry Higgs. And go find that golf channel on Twitter there, guys. It's fascinating. Like, you can see how sticky this grass is around the greens. I think Martin Keimer was also mentioning that they've kind of grown the grass up by like just a little bit so that it's a little furry. So those like smooth putts from off the putting surfaces are going to be a little bit more tricky. And what I've been saying is, like, this week it's going to be like a candle with its wick. If you're putting from off the green, I think your putting candle is going to be burning down so much quicker because your average putt for par is going to be that much longer than if you're chipping, because I think you can get it much closer if you chip, but you also likely might have to chip one more time after that because you could chunk it or something. So your risk reward factor is going to be much lower or much higher, sorry, but your putting is the safer option. But I think you're going to really burn that candle there trying to make longer par putts than if you were chipping. So that's kind of just how I'm expecting it to happen this week, and it's going to be fun. So let's dive into it, Ron, because we've got some fun names in this range. We've got John Rahm withdrew, so now we've got some numbers going all around you. So we've got Scotty sitting at 1,300, Rory at 12-1, Xander at 11-5. I feel like that's a really solid three guys to just chat about here. Which one of those three, obviously Scotty, how are you handling those three guys?
Yeah, so like I'm seeing around 40% ownership for Scotty right now. Obviously, I think we've seen every week where, even recently it looks like, okay, he's going to be 35, he ends up being 40. Like, I think it's just going to go up, and I think part of the reason is just, as everybody knows who's looked at the DraftKings pricing, there's just so many lineups that you can fit around him and feel like really good about it. And so I think it just becomes a question of, can you afford to not play him? Now, obviously, if he finishes, 13th or something like that, or even 8th or 9th, still top 10, but like, you could not play him and you could still have a very, very successful week if you have the other guys, around him or, different from him, I should say. So, I think, this course is so perfect for his skill set. He's the best total driver. When you look at distance from edge of the fairway, which again, I think gives a much clearer picture off the tee than driving accuracy. He's the best this year in that. Long irons, if you want to look at short game, especially from the short grass, which again is a rabbit hole metric that you can look at and just look at other courses that was difficult, kind of from tight light areas that they're going to see nonstop this week. And so, yeah, I just think that when a course is playing tough, like Pinehurst will play, he doesn't need a good week putting to separate, because he can separate from the field in all these other areas that he excels at. And so, again, we're back to this where if he just puts average, like, he probably wins by a few strokes. And so even with bad breaks he might face this week, like, he's got the game to overcome those and the mental capacity to just kind of move on to the next hole. And so love him. And I think looking my next guy, I think Xander, it's kind of, I'm sticking with tried and true here. He's finished top 15 in 7 straight U.S. Opens. Okay, so, I mean, as we all know, he doesn't really have any weaknesses. And on a course where you need, like, USGA has come out and said, we want every player's club to get dirty this week. And you need every club here. He's got that. And I think Memorial was good for him. I know he kind of excelled with the putter. Yeah. But it was just kind of a good warm-up for him to just kind of get off the PGA win. And now he can focus on this week. And so it's going to be Scotty and Xander for me. And like, my question is, Brooks or Bryson? I'm interested to hear what you say about these two, because, I think they're a little, I mean, I don't think you can ever complain about Brooks being priced anywhere in the U.S. Open, because we all know what he can do here. But when I look and I see, Morikawa sitting there at 9-4 and I see all the value, I'm still undecided on Brooks or Bryson. So interested to hear what you have to say about those guys also.
Yeah, I'm with you on Xander and Scotty there. I'll likely be playing Scotty in the majority of my lineups. I don't know if you can play Scotty and Xander, so that's going to be very difficult. So maybe if you're not playing Scotty, you got to play Xander. But I think I'll be leaning Brooks over Bryson. I understand Bryson's current form is really good. He's really relating with the people, which is also something I don't think I ever would have expected myself to say on a show. But Bryson seems like he's figured it out. And I mentioned the protractor thing versus the pencils and paintbrushes, but I don't know if he's going to – it just seems too complicated around the greens here. I don't know, Bron. I don't know. I'll go Brooksy. I know he finished 4th here when they played in 2014. I feel like the more difficult the course is, the more you want to play Brooks. I think Valhalla just kind of just got him disinterested because of -121 there. I think -1, that's 20 more shots guys will have to take this week. So I think that's a bit more. Isn't that also interesting to think about? The more shots you take, the better the golfers should separate from themselves because you're hitting more shots, right? Which is just had an epiphany on air, yeah. But I'm a big Brooks fan, and I think he's not a terrible pivot off of Colin, who I think is going to be very popular. And I think I will be playing him because he's just so good in these majors. And the short game run for Colin has been, man, it's exciting to see him at this venue.
Yeah, and just going back to Bryson here, so he's 82nd in the field in my around the green model this week, and I know there's a lot of chatter about he is good putting from off the green, and with his analytic way of thinking about slope and all that, all the calculations that go on in his brain there, that's fascinating in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, I think if you look at Brooks, so I think the motivation is there. I think he's just seething with Scotty getting all the love, and he's just kind of had a rough Masters, has not played well overall this year. But then you look and he shoots 7 under at Live on Sunday. Okay, so his last round. And if you look at some of the other unconventional courses that have been used in the U.S. Open, so he was second at Kiowa, which, again, that was a PGA Championship, but still, got some similarities to Pinehurst. And then he obviously won Shinnecock. And then the year before that, he won at Erin Hills. And so, he's kind of shown he doesn't need to just hit it out of, the conventional, long rough, narrow fairways, got to have distance. So he's shown he can win in multiple ways. And I know that was a while ago. And so it's just, that's my question is, can he recapture some of what he's done in the past, or is it kind of time to move on from Brooks? So I'm probably leaning towards you and playing Brooks over Bryson. I think you don't need to play one of those two, but I think the upside that both of those guys present, it's, I feel a lot more comfortable playing at least one of them.
Yeah, that is also the thing. It's so much upside for $3,000 less than Scotty. I mean, if you're thinking about like a 2v2 situation, you can go Brooks and Colin versus Scotty and a 6K guy. Like that's the 2v2 that you're really kind of almost looking at here. It's or 7K, like you're really, really looking at some lower tier guys, but the 7K range, Ron, is kind of, there's some guys, there's some really options there, which is making the Scotty situation even more exciting. So anybody else here in this 9K range, Ron? Wyndham Clark struggled, recently. I think some of the comments he's mentioned are interesting. I'll also be playing Victor, though. I think everyone's freaking out about Victor's around the green play on the short grass. He'll just putt it, or he'll just chip it. He'll figure it out. I love Victor. He's always been good around the greens in majors anyway, so I think he'll be fine. I mean, who are you looking at as well?
Yeah, so you got two guys sitting on the bottom here. Cantlay and Clark are both coming in like right around 4% right now. So, that's, it's tempting, but when you look and see how they performed recently, I mean, even Cantlay, missing the cut at one of his happy places, like you just can't in good conscience, play them really. And so I think Colin, I agree, he's going to be very high owned. But like when you look at it, what he's done, like he is so hot right now, 5 top 9s in the last 2 months. He 3rd at the Masters, 4th at the PGA. Like you said, he's gained almost 10 strokes around the green his last 3. And so, we talked before his approach game was broken, but like Victor, he's fixed his approach game. And so he's gained over 12 strokes that last 3. So also when I looked at course history in majors, he has the 2nd best average finish position in majors since 2018 in this entire field. So, and people talk, oh, well, putting. Well, if you look at his 5 to 15 foot range in the last 6 months, he's top 40 in this field. So he hasn't been bad putting. So just kind of the way he's put it all together here, I think he's a misprice. I don't understand why he's 9.4. I think you'd agree with that. He should be much higher. And so, he's a guy who I see him coming even around 23, 25% right now. Yeah, you can't. I think it's doable. I've already done a few of these where you play him and Scotty together. Now that I'm assuming is going to be a popular start, so you're going to have to get really different with those other 4 guys. And like you said, leave money on the table for sure. But it's hard to avoid Colin this week.
Yeah, it is, especially when in a field with Scotty, with Brooks, he leads this field in majors top 5 percentages. Like incredible. Like this is what we're dealing with Colin Morikawa. He's as lifeless as he looks in contention sometime, he's still an ultimate competitor in these big tournaments, unlike somebody called Schman Berend or something like that. We'll chat about him a little bit. But in the 8th here, Ron, my boy, Cam Smith, the reason for the moustache this week. We are going to the well. I love him. I love this guy. I love him watching him golf. I love his interviews. I love what he brings to the game. He's so exciting. He's so different. He's not the run-of-the-mill kind of golfer you get. And I'll be playing him so much. Hideki Matsuyama at this golf course. This guy's been gaining 1.8 strokes per round on approach at US Opens for the last 20 rounds of US Open golf. Scottie Scheffler is currently averaging 1.7 strokes gained on approach this year. Just think about that. Like Hideki Matsuyama at the US Open is gaining more strokes on approach than Scottie Scheffler is gaining this year. So you got to play this guy. And then again, Hideki, one of the greatest guys around the green. So he's doing two things that are very important this week. Now, how's Hideki going to putt on these greens? That is the question. But I think he's still going to chip a lot of balls in. I mean, if Hideki doesn't have a chip in this week, the world's not right, Ron.
Yeah, and the two guys you said so far, I'm definitely on. I know Cam Smith's your boy, and I worry a little bit about him. And as with a lot of the LIV players, like we've seen it with Jon Rahm, it's almost like LIV has, I don't want to say taken the life out of some of these guys, but it just, I worry about the intensity of the competitions and, how much is he still practicing? And, but I know, you get to a place, a major, I know it's got to mean something to these guys. And so I think with Cam this week, his connection with sandbelt courses, his remarkable short game, you look at St. Andrews, what he did, not exactly the same types of green complexes, but a lot of creativity was needed around those greens. And again, I looked at using the rabbit hole here, where we have the ability to look at other courses that are difficult to gain strokes on approach. And he is actually, I couldn't believe he's had to rerun the numbers, but he's the second best player in this field behind Scottie on difficult approach courses over the last 3 years. And so, even if his approach game is off, he's got the touch and imagination to gain strokes right back around the green. And so I feel very comfortable playing him this week at 8-7. I think Tommy Fleetwood is a guy who, sitting there at 8-5, obviously he was way too highly priced, the last couple of weeks. And I think his consistent baseline, though, in each strokes gained category, which kind of going back to what I said about Xander, every club in the bag this week. And if you go back and look at Fleetwood's results on some similar U.S. Opens on firm and fast courses that are kind of similar to this week. So last year at LACC, he was 5th. Obviously in Shinnecock, he was runner up to Brooks. Aaron Hills, he was 4th. So I think his accuracy off the tee, his around the green play, I think that's a great price. And I'll drop down here to Fitzpatrick. Again, if it's a difficult scoring course, it's an auto play for me. Okay, when I see a course like this where he's second in the field in bogey avoidance on difficult courses, he's 6th best on long courses. Obviously, he was the champ in 2022 at Brookline. And so another guy who's gaining in every area, has the short game skills. And yeah, I'll close with another guy who's I could not believe this price, but Hideki at 8K flat. He finished 4th overall in my entire model this week. Sunday at the Memorial, he gains 5 strokes. And everyone, kind of makes fun of him, for the withdrawals and the injury concerns. But, I mean, the guy has 5 top 12s in the last 4 months, including a win at the Genesis. Like you said, he is pretty much almost any metric you look at, and especially if you combine them together, he's the best around the green player in the world. He's top 10 from the short grass. And so, he has the upside to win, and his floor is probably what? Top 30?
It's the best in the field. It's the best in the field because he's made the most cuts in this field. 94% of cuts in majors, Ron. In a 60-man cut field, that's exactly what you're looking for. But everyone knows this, and I think Hideki is going to be right behind Scottie and Colin in ownership. So if you're playing those 3 guys, you're going to have to figure out the other 3, with sub 10, because that's going to be, very, very popular. So, but again, mispriced. I don't understand. What on earth is Patrick Cantley doing at $9,200 with Hideki at 8? That Jordan Spieth, $7,900, Hideki 8. Like that doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is. By the way, to get back to Cam and Hideki, we'll dive into Minwoo in the next little bit. Those are the three guys this year who've gained over 3 strokes, Ron, twice this year. But Cam has done it only in 8 rounds of shot-link golf, which is the exciting part. Like that's just how explosive his short game is. So in the 7K range, Ron, these ranges are kind of small. The 7K range is skinny. So you can really sneak a few guys in. I kind of like a few here too. Justin Rose is at the bottom with $7,000 flat. He leads the field in strokes gained putting in majors, which I think is going to be very important this week. So I love him a lot. Who else are you eyeing out in the 7s?
Yeah, so there's first of all, I love when you get down to this lower 7K range. Upper 7Ks, Shane Lowry is a guy who kind of popped for me in the model, but when you look at his recent results, like his approach game, the success he was having, looks like it's kind of dried up. He obviously had the great finish at the PGA, finishing 6th there, but yeah, there's not a lot that really excites me until I get to another one of your favorites, Thigala at 7,600. And so, yeah, this is a course where, you look at his affinity for difficult tracks. He was 12th at Muirfield, 12th at the PGA, 2nd at Harbortown, 9th at Sawgrass, 6th at Bay Hill. And this just feels like a Thigala course where, he's kind of up and down at times, even with the things he's good at, like around the green. But I think he has the touch. He has the creativity. So I think that's a great price for him at 7.6. I think he's got some upside that he brings to the table. I think and like we'll get to the bottom range, but I think a guy like a Jason Day here, look, you're going to have to play some boring golf this week. And Jason Day is a guy who not great on approach, but similar to, Cam Smith, he's got, second best around the green player in my model. So he's got the ability to kind of make up for it around the greens. And if you're just looking for guys to be kind of par machines, I think Jason Day fits that. And so you throw in his experience, you get kind of that veteran presence that he's not going to get flustered easily. So I love him. And I'll let you start at the lower 7 range. I don't know if you got some guys you want to talk about here, because there's some that I love. So I'll let you go first.
Good. I love these guys, and I love what you're going with there already. Jason Day, also Australian, the sandbelty kind of vibes. I think Cam Smith mentioned this golf course. He described it as like eye candy, like that to me. These guys appreciate this kind of golf course, so I like that a lot. Cameron Young, I'll be playing just as a method play. I'm assuming his ownership is going to be very low because he's not playing the greatest golf, and people are just pissed off with what he's been giving them. So give me a Cam Young major. I haven't played the guy at all since the PGA, so I'll go back to him at another major and see what happens. Tom Kim is going to be in a lot of my lineups. At $7,300, we get a guy who's only turning 22 later this month. Like he's 21 years old, and he's been firing in these majors. He's got that T2 at the Open Championship, which, Ron, how would you rank the 4 majors to compare to this week's course?
I think even though I didn't use any comparisons, you got to almost put the Open Championship as kind of the biggest comparison, right? Like, yeah. I think that would be first. The Masters does have a lot of similarities too, so I kind of put those 2 up top for sure. Those would be where I put it.
Isn't that funny? Because for the US Open and the PGA Championship, I've always just used US Open and PGA Championship metrics. But this week, it's not. It's the other 2 that I'm being using, and kind of more so the around the green and putting at Augusta than really off the tee. I feel like the fairways are wide here, but the penalty for missing, I guess in Augusta, you got pine trees and pine needles. This week, you got weed grass and all sorts of stuff. So we'll see what cooks there. But Tom Kim has been amazing. He's really throwing together some good form lately. The short game in majors is where he thrives. And that's just like a mindset thing. These guys that show up in majors, they just have it. And they have that extra competitive gear that they really drive into. And I'm a big fan of Tom Kim. Like I mentioned, Justin Rose, I'm all over this dude. If you give me the best putter in the field at a golf course where you're going to be having to make tons and tons of putts from 5 to 20 feet for par, like routinely this week, Justin Rose is that guy for me. Same thing with Sung Jae Im. Like guys, you're also looking for good long iron players, but if a guy has got really bad iron play this week and still very good around the greens, he's going to be chipping like 2 or 3 more times than everyone else anyway, so I'm cool going to guys that have really good short game, even if the irons are struggling. And then one more dude. I've never been a Minwoo fan, but I'm growing, Ron. I'm growing as an individual, and I'm willing to accept that I can roster a Minwoo in a major.
I mean, he finished like 40th in my model, and I'm like, nope, I'm moving him up. And the reason is I think he just has the intangibles for these events.
Yes.
Like if you look at he's played 10 career majors. He's finished in the top 27, 7 of those 10. And so like his numbers, like he's kind of hit or miss in so many different areas, and he's very volatile. But the things that matter this week, so he's 9th in total driving. He's got an elite short game. And like you said, we all know how bad his approach play can be. Now his long irons are the best part of his approach game, which matters here. He's also a top 10 lag putter in this field, so really good at avoiding 3 putts. And like you said, we've seen him chip in from all over the place many different times recently. And so, his ability to kind of make up for those poor approach shots, I think, just gives him some extra upside this week. And so, agree with you on Sungjae. I think he's sneakily one of the hottest players in the world right now. I mean, he's got 3 top 10s in his last 4. He's fixed a lot of the issues that were he was struggling with before. He's top 15 off the tee around the green. I ran a safety model this week, and safety meaning basically looking for floor and all the stats that, are you, distance from edge of the fairway, things like sand saves, putting from 5 to 15 feet, 3-putt avoidance. And he's the 4th best player in this field, just looking from a safety perspective. So I love him. And one more guy I'll mention down here. I think Benny On is a guy who, you just look at his overall record this year, and he's had some really bad events, where he lost a ton of strokes, at RBC and at the Players. But you look at pretty much everything else, like he has been ultra consistent. His around the green play has been a little more sporadic than it has been previously in his career. But I know I've seen him when he was at the Rocket Mortgage when I was there last year. I just watched him for a good 30 minutes. Around the green, hitting every type of shot you could imagine. And so I know he has it, and he's played in plenty of big events before. Like he was just 16th at the Masters. He was 22nd last week on that tough track. And so I think Benny On at 7,100, again, leaning into kind of that veteran experience guy who's been there. He's not going to get flustered easily. And so I think mental makeup, even when you get down here, we often talk about, okay, looking at a guy, we'll take course history guys down at this range. I think this week it's more of taking guys who can get pars, who can play boring golf, and who are like veteran presences who aren't going to get down quickly.
Can I ask a really weird question that I don't even know the answer to either? But what would you say is the stat you would use if I said, I need a stat that helps me understand which golfer has the best mental capacity on tour?
Yeah, like I think more people are getting accustomed to, bounce back percentage, when you bogey and then you come right back and you
this
birdie.
Week, I don't know if that you're not going to birdie the next hole.
Yeah. So I don't really know if there is. That's a good question. It's something that it's like if we could put our heads together and invent something. That'd be you probably need to really dig deep into the data to get what you needed, but. Yeah, it's this course is going to bring out those intangibles for sure. And you wish there was a way we could measure, but yeah, it's tough right now.
Yeah, it's really tough. But I'm, like I said, so excited, burning so much vacation this week to kind of just take the week off and just the rest of the week off and just enjoy watching this golf because it's going to be so fun to watch. So in the 6s, we've got Russell Henley at the top of the 6K range. What is happening this week, Ron? What are they doing?
You want me to take this range first? Is that what you're saying?
Go for it. Yeah, I'm sad.
Yeah, like this is the range where, like these guys, again, I don't know what the thinking is, but these guys, even in a week where they're going to go into the 5Ks, okay, so I understand they have to try to spread these guys out. But that being said, Russell Henley could have been 8K this week, and I would not have blinked my eye. And so here he is at 6'9". He checks some of the most important boxes this week. If you're looking at accuracy, long irons, He's, obviously a top 10 player tee to green. And if you look, just looked at this really quick, Bermuda is his favorite putting surface by far. Like, he's gaining 0.33 strokes per round. And on the rabbit hole, you can go to the player pages and you can get a quick view of every single player, what they do on all the different surfaces. And so, yeah. And then right next to him, like Alex Noren, like you're talking about, looking for guys who have mental makeup. Like, this is a guy who's played overseas. He's won overseas. Like, he's probably playing the best golf of his career right now. I don't think you could ask for better conditions to bring out his best when you look at he's top 10 in Bermuda putting and scrambling, bogey avoidance. So, like, this is what you want. This is the guy who, he's a grinder who can play from the fairway. He's going to play boring golf and, 9 top 25s in his last 10 starts. So, I mean, man, this is a guy who, you're looking if the winning score is going to be like 2 or 3 under, like, I don't think he's going to win, but he's a guy who could just hang around till Sunday and maybe finish even par a few shots back. And so, and again, there's so many guys here like Brian Harmon. You want to bring open comparisons from the championship last year, like a guy who definitely has the around the green game, the short game. Si Woo Kim, one of the best short games in the world. I mean, you look at Denny McCarthy sitting right there at 6'7". I think this is a great course for him. He's come out and been very vocal about how he wants to play the hard courses. And, obviously best putter on tour inside 10 feet where you're going to have to save par so many times this week, maybe even save bogey from that range. And he's very confident around the greens. And then, Harris English is right there. This is a guy who always shows up in these big events. And, he finished 32nd in my model. And I'll finish with one guy in this upper because there's guys that I got lower too. And I know you do, but okay, I might be taking this guy from you because you're on him a lot, but Billy Horschel is somebody who I don't know if people understand, what he's done recently. Like, when you look at 6 top 15s over the last 3 months, and he's doing it on difficult courses. Like, he was 9th at PGA National. He was 12th at Innisbrook, 7th at Memorial Park, 8th at the PGA, 15th at Colonial. And so, I think he's a guy when we get to that, again, talking about experience, short game, a grinder. I love Billy Ho this week.
Yeah. The only thing with these guys, but this is also why they're in the 6Ks, is like they're all lacking this like immense upside in majors. They've played well in them, but not like upside in the majors. But I think this is the one opportunity for them to have a really good shot where they aren't separated from the elite drivers of the golf ball, right? Because a lot of these US Open PGA Championships, if you're not a good driver of the golf ball, you got to have a career week in the rest of your game to kind of succeed, where guys in this range can really, really thrive. And I'm kind of intrigued to see. So should we do how many? Do you want to do 2 guys, Ron? You can start with 2 and I'll go 2 after that.
Yeah, we going 6'5" and below, or how you want to do it?
2 guys between 6,900 and let's go 64. So you got to go 65 to 69. And then we'll do 2 more from that in the bottom 6Ks and then 2 guys from the 5s.
Okay, well, I'll take Horschel to start with. I already talked about him, so I'll let you take your next 2.
Cool. I'm going to go with Keegan Bradley, $6,800. Speaking about just what his game's doing, second at the Charles Schwab, lost to Davis Riley, whose second or third best start that year has been like a 53rd. Like, that's your third best start, and you just go and just wax the entire field. That includes Scotty Scheffler. So $6,800 for Keegan is exactly where I'm looking to go here. He's driving the ball great. He's playing some good golf. He's played here in 2014, finished 4th. I understand the greens aren't the same, but he also putts okay on Bermuda. So I'm fine with Keegan in this range. And then Harris English is someone that this dude is very impressive when it comes to difficult golf courses. It doesn't seem like it, but he just, like last year at API, just, oh, hi, I'm Harris English. I'm the only person to go bogey free on Sunday on in treacherous conditions and just finish 3rd out of nowhere. That can exactly happen with him. So I'm all about Harris English for sure.
So I will go for my other guy, and I already talked about him, but yeah, Russell Henley, maybe other than Hideki, the biggest misprice on the board here. So I think he's a guy, and even, when you kind of get into maybe some of these guys haven't really done it at majors. You look at Russell. He's got the 27th best course history, in this entire field, kind of. And I did add Augusta to that as well. And so looking at all majors, so he's a guy who has shown up from time to time, and so he would be my second choice.
I love it. All right, so we're going to need your third guy in this range between $6,400 and $6,000, and then also I guess we can knock out our two options and then chat about the rest of the range after that.
Yeah, I'm going to take a guy who, your fellow countryman, who again is another misprice here.
I literally clicked his name.
Yeah, Christian Bezuidenhout at 6,200. I do not understand how. Look, there's some guys in this range that are very playable, but when you look at say a Nikolai Højgaard or a Daniel Berger who have not been playing well recently, and then you look and he's way down here in the low 6Ks. When you look at approach through putting, okay, he is the 9th best player in this field. Okay, looking at approach around the green, putting. When you look at his recent form, okay, last 6 months we'll take. He's the 7th best player in this field. He's had a great year. He is great on difficult tracks at avoiding bogeys. He is great on difficult par fours. He is the 8th best player in this field at 3-putt avoidance from 25 plus feet. So I think he's just a guy who I don't understand, again, this price. And again, he's almost like a mini Matt Fitzpatrick at times, where I think he has the potential to get to that level as he keeps progressing. But again, if it's a tough track, I am playing Bez.
That's a great comp, actually, Ron, because I think we're going to see a similar trajectory for Bezzy, because he's working with that guy Mike on X, where he's worked with Seamus Power and I think he's also worked with Jaeger to work on their driving. So if you think about what Steven Jaeger used to be, that is the potential for Christian Bezuidenhout working with this person, because it's the same coach. So I really think Bezzy, that's his biggest issue. But at this major, the driving, it's total driving, so accuracy can help you here too. And he's got a little bit of that, at least, to his game. So I'm excited to see what he's doing. I'm very sad you took him from me, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll knock out my two guys right in the bottom here. I'm going to go with Victor Perez as my $6,100 option. He's not got the long-term stats I'm really looking for, but the last two starts have been really good. And he's $6,100. So I'll take a quick flyer on him, and then just making sure I'm not missing anyone at the top of this range before I go to, I'm going to go Seamus Power. I'm going to go with him because he's been playing better golf too lately as well. He's $6,100. Very, very excited for his performances here, and it's another major. He actually kind of thrives in majors. So for a $6,100 golfer, we're getting some solid upside.
So my last guy, and this is a guy who, again, he really hasn't put it together in an actual major yet. He's had his struggles, but you look at short game, you look at a guy who's fighting for President's Cup, Olympics, Canadian, magic beans around the greens. You know who I'm talking about yet?
Oh, you're taking Mackenzie Hughes from me as well, right? Well, I guess I've already taken him.
Yeah, you've got your picks. But yeah, I think I don't feel comfortable playing him. But again, if you're looking for someone who, again, boring golf, let's survive with par, move on to the next hole. He's got such great hands and imagination around the greens. And so, yeah, Mackenzie Hughes would be my final guy here.
And Mackenzie Hughes is putting so well right now. Like, he's not the kind of guy whose his candle burns bright and it burns slow on these greens, Ron. It's like, it's so good until it gets to Sunday, and then it just gets a little wash. That's the problem with Mackenzie. But I've got a top 10 bet on him because I think all hands team, all chip in, and from a DFS perspective as well, like, he can chip in for eagles. He makes a lot of eagles just from, I don't even know statistically, but just thinking about it, I see him chipping in for eagle all the time. So it's something I'm really looking for from guys this week to score, because there's going to be guys that are going to be in jail when they're having to chip. And then there's going to be guys who have opportunity to kind of even score and he is one of them. So I'm a fan. Any other options you like here in this range, Ron?
Yeah, when I look at the 5K, like there's not a lot that excites me. I don't know about you. Obviously, you've
Yeah.
got a bunch of qualifiers here, a bunch of guys, most people have never heard of. I do think, I think Adam Schenk at 5'9" is a little bit interesting because he does have some of the qualities. He can get hot with the putter. I think the one guy that is very intriguing, just because you look at a talent upside perspective, Sam Bennett at 5'7". He's on the Corn Ferry Tour now. Had some pretty decent success recently, but he's played in 3 majors. Okay, so he was 43rd at the U.S. Open, 16th at the Masters, and then he was 49th in 2022 U.S. Open. And so 3 for 3 in made cuts. We saw him at Augusta. I think what was he? He was like leading, I think, after the second round or something like that, and until he kind of fell apart a little bit. But he really showed great touch around the greens. I remember that vividly. And so, just kind of going back and thinking about who can present a little bit of upside here. I think he's one of the few in this 5K range who has the upside, and he also has experience playing in 3 of these big time events.
Yeah, I'm thinking if you can find guys south of $5,800 this week to put in your lineup, you're going to that person's likely going to be 1% unless it's like a chalk, like it's going to be very difficult because it is barren down here. But I'm very glad, Ron, that you never took my other guy, my all hands team, Harry Hands Higgs. This dude, talk about making a major appearance. How he got you is what a journey. I mean, this guy's, I think, one Corn Ferry Tour went away from getting back onto the PGA Tour by the 3-win thing, because I think he's won 2 now, both in playoffs, both times having to chip in to either win it or get into it. It's like his short game has just been incredible. He was on the Golf Channel with Johnson, but he's showing people how to chip, and he can chip. He can chip. So he seems in a great mental space. He's played well in past majors. I'm all about Harry Higgs this week, and I'm very excited for him. And then my other guy that I'm going to play in this range is Justin Lower. He's been playing better golf this week. He's a very good long iron player. Very good long iron player for a $5,800 guy. So I'll be playing some Justin Lower, and he can get spiky with the putter every now and then. So I'll take a gamble on him.
Yeah, one other guy I'll say here, and I forgot to mention him, is Zach Blair. He's 5,500. He's a guy who, again, very short off the tee, but one of the most accurate players in this field. And he's into golf course designing, and he's got this course, the Tree Farm in South Carolina. And so, not exact to Pinehurst, but, some Carolina similarities there. And so, he's a guy at 5,500. He made the cut at the PGA Championship. And so, a guy who, if you're looking for a cut maker, someone who can, another kind of a grinder type player, I think Zach Blair is somewhat interesting at 5,500.
Yeah, he is. I think he played here in 2004. He did. In 2014, Zach Blair finished 40th here. So he's got a bit of course history. And that's also something I wanted to ask you, Ron, is we've got like Phil, who's played here, and he's played all 3 instances. Because Phil was up against the likes, of Payne, when we were doing all of that. So that was, by the way, this isn't really DFS related, but that 1999 US Open is probably one of my favorite US Opens that I didn't really watch. Like I've just seen on YouTube and stuff. What a crazy story. What a cool situation, and sad kind of ultimate ending, but what a legacy to have left behind,
Yeah, that was one of my earliest memories of watching, actually getting into golf on TV. And, I remember Payne Stewart, just a great character, and how he dressed. I used to actually dress like that when I first started golfing in memory of him, just because I love when I played basketball, I would wear the high socks. And so then I would take it over to the golf course, and I'd have the little kind of Scottish look to me. And so, yeah, that was a great event, and just seeing, his excitement after kind of collapsing in the last U.S. Open, and he kind of bounced back that year. And of course, what happened to him afterwards was so tragic. But yeah, that's one of my earliest memories, and actually watching golf. And yeah, I love it.
Yes, sir. It's going to be a fun one. Who would you say? I know this is, we're going off topic, but let's just do it for 5 minutes. Of the past 3 winners, who would you compare them to of our current era playing this week? So starting with Payne Stewart, who would you say is this year's Payne Stewart?
Oh man, I think,
And then, yeah.
yeah, I don't, maybe not the way he plays, but maybe his emotion and maybe kind of how he thinks. I can see a little bit of Bryson in that. Like,
Sure.
just I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking of Bryson with how he dressed up in the old school look, and that's in my head right now. With the mustache and everything. But yeah, I can see some Bryson in that. Just kind of we saw Bryson getting the crowds fired up,
Yeah.
and he's obviously he is probably the greatest showman in golf right now, and so I think Payne Stewart kind of had some similarities to him.
And they've got a very similar putting style as well, that upright center shaft. So we'll see how that unfolds for him. Obviously want to say Cam Smith seems like a Payne Stewart kind of a profile from a statistical perspective. And I almost want to say that Payne Stewart almost makes me think that he wanted to be an Australian, like just the way he like acted. It was weird. I feel like he would have done well in Australia.
I
Didn't
think
he ended up marrying
his
an
wife,
Australian?
yeah, yeah, his wife was, yeah.
So Australian women are, by the way, the men, not so much. But anyway, 2014, Ron, 2005, we had Michael Campbell win. So Tiger finished second to him, 2 shots back. Who is this year's Michael Campbell for you?
So I remember Michael Campbell. I remember he had a pretty good stretch where he was actually really good. I guess for me, I don't know if he was expected to win. So like if we're taking this from like a long shot perspective, I don't know. I mean, if we're looking from a DraftKings, just kind of tying it in, I could see like maybe a Russell Henley type, a guy who has, kind of a solid all around game. Kind of under the radar, Russell Henley, not the most exciting player in the world, but he just kind of gets it done. And so, yeah, I could see something like a Russell Henley if he can get it done this week.
Russell Henley, I'm going to say Keegan Bradley, like kind of just Keegan's probably playing a bit better than maybe Campbell. I don't know exactly what Campbell is up to, but I've got 110 to 90 to 1 ticket on Keegan. Like to me, that's a long shot. We're golden there. So I think Keegan's the guy, and it's going to be weird, Ron, because we've got all these random people that can show up because this golf course allows you to do that. And then in 2014, we got Martin Keimer, and I'll go first and say that when I was watching Martin Keimer do his thing, it was Scotty Scheffler-esque because it was precise, it was amazing, and it was just very difficult to kind of see him making a mistake. Even after he putted it off the greens, you'd be right back on and making bogey, avoiding disaster. So I'd say this year it's Scotty.
So I'm trying to think. So obviously Martin Keimer, he won the Players and he won the U.S. Open before this. Or no, he won the PGA in 2010. So he had some past success. And so, again, trying to tie it to today, so a guy like a Jason Day who was also kind of had past success. He's won majors. He's kind of a long, obviously he won the Byron Nelson and a few others, but he's kind of had a drought here in big events. And so obviously we remember Martin Keimer putting so well off the greens. I think Jason Day has that ability too, to kind of maybe putt his way, even though he's so good chipping as well. So yeah, I'd go with Jason Day for that one.
Cool. And before we get out of here, old Ryan Noonan in the background here doing a wonderful job producing. Wake up, Ryan. Said that Payne was Bryson's hero and he actually went to SMU because of him. So, and also Bryson went through the era of the hat, right? Which Payne also wore. So makes a lot of sense. And that's really, really cool. For the last thing I want to ask you, Ryan, before we get out of here, who's going to be the biggest disappointment for you? Like, who do you think, which chalk bomb is going to blow up? Because it's going to happen. This golf course is going to happen.
I mean, I would love to say, and not that I would love to say it, because I'm actually rooting for Bryson. Like, I think he's great for the sport. So I have my doubts about him. Just looking at, from a bogey avoidance perspective, and all it takes is a couple bad drives into the wiregrass, and he could be behind the 8 ball pretty quick. So. I think Bryson is kind of an initial choice. Yeah, that's a tough one. Because a lot of the guys I think are going to struggle are kind of be low owned as it is. When you're looking at Cantlay and Clark, and I just don't expect much from guys like that. Cameron Young. Yeah, I just have to go with Bryson right now because I would say maybe Ludwig as well. Ludwig he's kind of cooled off a little bit. And again, you have a course that he's kind of a different type of course. I don't know how many courses that are similar to this that he's played. Obviously probably not in Sweden or even in Texas. When he went to school there, Pinehurst is just kind of very unique, and so I don't think his ownership's that high right now. But I could see Ludwig missing the cut this week.
Yeah, I can see it too because his short game is iffy. It's not, for as good as he is, he's not the best when it comes to the short game situation. I'm going to go ahead and say that the guy that I think is going to be one of the biggest disappointments potentially is Xander Schauffele. I know he's got this 7-run streak of top 15s in the US Opens. I've got a top 10 run at 40-1 for him to finish inside the top 10 in each major. And I bet 13 on it to win 500 and something. And it's paying out $130 right now. And I'm really tempted to just take that money because everyone says the floodgates are going to open. I'm saying the balloon's air is going to open and the air is going to come out of this because I think Xander's been working so hard to kind of win this major. Maybe it's this expectation is just all like done, like now the defending champ coming or the prior major winner is going to show up here. And I think he's going to let some people down maybe. So 22% owns Xander Schauffele. Do I cash it out or do I keep it, Ron?
I think you keep it, man. I think he's got the all-around play, and yeah, you let it sit a little bit longer.
Statistically, I trust him. Emotionally, I don't know. I'm got a weird feeling about him, but that is going to be it for the US Open on the Byron Betsperts show. So, folks, go check out the rabbit hole if you are looking for narratives to kind of drive your DFS pool or collections of your pool. Go check out the rabbit hole. There's nothing out there that you can filter on rabbit hole stuff like you can at the rabbit hole. So go check that out. If you're a nerdy dude, nerdy dudette, it's all there for you, and you can go and check it all out there at betsperts.com. Ron, what's cooking for the rest of the week for you? For the rest of the day?
So yeah, just DraftKings article coming out here soon, and weather looks good. I think it's going to be hot. The ball's going to be flying. I know people are rooting for chaos, and so yeah, firm and fast looks to be kind of the name of the game this week. And so yeah, what's your last thing here? What's your final score prediction? I'm going to go -3. What do you got?
I'm going to go -9. It's going to be Scotty. I think that's the thing. Like, I've stopped betting over-unders in scores because of Scotty. Like, he's the only person that I'm scared of going super deep. The rest of the field, if Scotty's not in the field, I would say I think the score gets to like -2. It's not going to be much. It's going to be very, very fun week. Looking much. How many people are going to be under par, Ron, this week, I guess?
Oh, that's a good one. Man, I'd go about 7 people, 7 players. Yep. I don't think it'll be too many.
Yeah. And I was looking at the weather. You said like there wasn't much wind, but I think this golf course is still going to play so difficult. So if it does pick up, it's going to be a lot of fun. But awesome stuff, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that like button, subscribe on the way out, please. We really appreciate that from you all. And don't forget to check out the rabbit hole over there at betsperts.com. Have an awesome US Open. Enjoy every shot, guys. Love those around you. And don't forget, this week especially, pivot your face off.